We're going to stick with basketball for just a couple of minutes here because my college, Southern Illinois Edwardsville, is headed to the big dance for the first time in program history. It started transitioning, reclassifying to Division I in 2008. Just a few years later, the University of Nebraska at Omaha began reclassifying to Division I. And the Mavericks are now Summit League champs. As a matter of fact, they technically qualified based on their semifinal win, but they win it outright so that there's no asterisk. Proud Omaha guy, Nick Handley.
Yes.
I know there was baseball on the mind, and we were looking at where Nebraska men's basketball was. But we can still separate some of that to feel some real big pride for me in SIUE, for you with UNO. How nice is that to see these programs, both first-timers, get their shot at the big dance, even if it's in Dayton?
Well, and the SIU Edwardsville connection in Omaha as well with Tony Baroni's son and Brian Baroni is really cool. So I know there are a lot of former Creighton Prep alum, Creighton alum that think the SIU story is very, very cool too. And I know when they were here playing Creighton, gosh, a couple of years ago, I had a chance to talk to Brian Baroni. What a great dude. And so, yeah, tip of the cap to them. For Omaha, I start with their overall leadership too, and Adrian Dowell, the athletic director there, who has been able to, I think, really get the athletic department up with the times, because hey, they're up against challenges when it comes to, FCS level type schools or those size of Division I programs that are mid-majors. What are you going to do to continue to build rosters for the programs that you need to, that you want to be successful? And Omaha is, hey, they're a self-proclaimed, this goes back when Trev was there, they're a self-proclaimed hockey program, hockey school now. So you obviously have to put money into that. The bull market, their NIL, their collective there, the bull market, they've done a really good job of getting more dollars together so they can stay competitive on the ice. And they're going to be hosting home ice for the second straight year in one of the toughest conferences in all of college hockey, which is great. But for basketball, to me, maybe one of the toughest things of being such a big, Maverick fan, and for that being my school, Darren Hansen, for me, was one of the great coaches, one of the best guys on top of being a great coach. But when they parted ways with Darren, I think a lot of us understood, okay, maybe it's just time. And it was going to be really important to see who would succeed Darren Hansen. And this is why I go back to Adrian Dowell. You find a guy like Chris Crutchfield, who has connections with Dana Altman, who has connections with some great college basketball players when he was at Oklahoma as an assistant coach, who actually played both sports at Omaha as well. So a guy that was going to re-energize the fan base, not just for basketball, but also a little bit of an olive branch for the football program that no longer exists. There was a lot of interesting ways to, I think, get people back on the Omaha athletic bandwagon. And you knew this was coming at some point. Darren Hansen had that team in the Summit League finals twice. And one was a heartbreaker. Travion Hollins, if that shot is just maybe just a couple centimeters to the left, they're going dancing against South Dakota State. Then, of course, they lose to North Dakota State a couple of years later. But for them to see this whole thing through, and I'm with you. I'm glad you brought up that weird situation, because for people who didn't get it, St. Thomas, they're still in their probationary period, so they can't go to postseason. They can't go to the NCAA tournament. So as long as they won their semifinal game, then it defaults back to who won the regular season. Well, the Omaha men's basketball team won the regular season. So you're playing a championship game where you already know you're going, but both teams played like they wanted that. And Omaha got St. Thomas's best shot, and they still won. So there's no asterisk or anything like that. They won it outright, which is fantastic. But Chris Crutchfield, Kyan Brown, all of that entire coaching staff, they connect with those players. But I think more than anything this year, and we've all seen the trash can thing that has been made popular, they're having a lot of fun building this program under his identity. And it's very similar to what we've seen before, where they've got a lot of offense. They can get up and down the floor, but they defend at a pretty high level too. This is just a really cool thing to see for that athletic department, for this city, and for them to finally get their flowers where they've been so close before. But again, kudos to Adrian Dowell, who made that hire. And then, of course, kudos to Chris Crutchfield in building that program to an NCAA tournament qualifier in such a short time. That is not easy, especially when you're up against some of those Summit League teams like the South Dakota States, the South Dakota, St. Thomas is now on the come as well as a new team. You got to look out for them. That they spend some money too. So again, good on Omaha.
Yeah, St. Thomas, for those that, whether you've heard of them a lot or not, the Tommies up there in, I believe, Minnesota, they got kicked out of their conference because they were too dominant.
Yep.
At the Division III level, not the Division II level, Division III.
Yeah, so they skipped a division.
Yeah, so you don't have athletic scholarships. They had a massive enrollment, so tons of students. So they're bringing in a bunch of money via tuition, and they jump all the way to Division I. And yes, super competitive right away. But I do like that both teams took Sunday's game seriously, because for the Tommies, that's all you got.
Yep.
You can win a conference title and say, yep, we won the conference.
Yeah, you can put up a banner for that.
Like you put up the banner. You don't have an NCAA tournament to look forward to. So that was the season for them. And for Omaha, you're playing to sweep the regular season and conference titles. Like, you're absolutely playing for something. So I applaud both programs for taking it seriously. Obviously, with Omaha, that shows what can be done. It's a different level than, what Creighton's doing, what Nebraska's doing. But at all levels, to have a uniform target that you're going after, to have the right basketball coach and have an athletic director that is taking your program seriously, that is what you need to have success. And Omaha has that lined up there. I know there's still a lot of ill will and a lot of people that don't feel good about the way the Division I reclassification happened with the dropping of football and the dropping of wrestling. I absolutely get that. I'm never going to tell people to not feel bad for those things, because there were a lot of really good local connections with those programs. That said, when you do reclassify and you do drop programs, it is with the intention to be successful in these other things. You've seen it with Omaha volleyball have some success. Obviously, hockey is that big one, but getting a basketball program into the NCAA tournament is what you point to and say, it's working out. Because that's where the dollars roll in as soon as you start getting those NCAA tournament credits. When you start getting those, and then your conference gets a win, those types of things. That's where it really starts to work out. That's what you're trying to get to in Lincoln, is get to the tournament on a regular basis and get in. But you're also getting money because you're the Big Ten Conference. Omaha doesn't have that benefit of being a multi-team league. You have one path to the tournament. It's not that large. Now, maybe if Omaha continues to build up really well and the Tommies take off, maybe you become a multi-bid league. But for what Crutchfield did this year and the fun they had doing it, that's what makes people really love you going into March. And you get to Selection Sunday next week. I think I've seen Omaha as high as a 14, actually. But most likely, depending on where things are, they'll be either the last 15, or there'll be a 16 and potentially in Dayton. I'm super excited for them. It gives us a local connection here. I'm super excited for all of my friends. That the old college group chat fired up real quick on Saturday. I'll let you know about my friends in Edwardsville.
I want to say this too for the mid-major schools, because you brought up something interesting, and I think it's right. There's just that fun element that comes with looking at lower seeds, mid-majors. And we used to have that one day, and you remember this, when we used to have the bracket busters. And so it would be a week in hell. There was one time when Creighton was considered a mid-major, and Creighton played a basketball game at I think it would have been the CenturyLink Center is what it was called back then, at 11 p.m. An 11 p.m. basketball game on a Saturday night. But it was a full day of mid-majors. You got a chance to see them. It was fun. It was cool. Is how they branded themselves. You don't have that anymore. So what I like and this was so organic with the whole trash can thing, that thing got exposure. That was on Scott Van Pelt Sports Center. That had so much attention. You get some wrestlers involved in this thing too. And it was, again, it was organic, but the UNO marketing group, this is why I give credit to Adrian Dow too. They ran with it. They leaned in on it, and it became their thing. There was a cool factor to that. You started to see the influx of attendance at men's basketball games there towards the end of the season, where they were getting 4,000 plus. I think the last 3 home games too. So it's always one thing when you have something to play for, but when there's that cool factor, that's how I look at this men's basketball team. This Omaha men's basketball team is they created a cool factor where it's easy for everybody to jump on board, to get out to Baxter Arena and to watch this team. So when you talk about being able to make a difference and you're trying to find those dollars that you can stay competitive, at least within your conference, you start seeing those butts in the seat. That's a great place to start. And Omaha did that successfully by winning, but also having that cool factor.
I'm a no for NCAA tournament expansion. If you do add anything, if say you add 8 teams, I want there to be more avenues for the mid-majors to be there. I don't need like the way Nebraska's season ended here. We don't need teams that are in this same area having extra shots at it. I want more mid-majors. I want the Tommies in. I want more Omahas. I want the SEMOs of the world, SIUE, obviously. That's what if you do expand, it's got to be mid-majors only. I don't want more of the power conference programs.